This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
What up, second hour, 9 to noon on a Monday morning. Sun is shining. And happy to catch up now. Minnesota Wild CEO Matt Majka, longtime member of the Minnesota Wild organization in St. Paul, joining me on the hotline. Good morning, Matt. How are you doing?
Hey, good, Nordo. How are you?
I've been doing really well. Excited for hockey. It's kind of deal-making season, right, as we watch the Hoop Squad and your team as well, with the draft just behind us and free agency, all those sorts of things right on the dinner plate, ready to feast on it. But you have a special announcement to bring to us today, potentially including the arena in St. Paul. So I'm gonna hand you the floor, sir.
Thanks, Nordo. Yeah, we are excited. It is kind of a great moment in time for our organization with the opportunity on the hockey front. With we finally are out from underneath the dead cap space that we've managed through for the past number of years, and so we're excited about the possibility to improve our hockey team this summer and into next year. And at the same time, as folks out there may know, the XL Energy naming rights partnership is coming to an end here basically today. We are just announced today that Grand Casino will be the new naming rights partner of our arena. We're really excited about that. We've had lots of different conversations over the past number of months with a number of interested parties, and the folks at Grand Casino kind of distinguished themselves in their sort of the way they're motivated, their enthusiasm for this partnership. And so we're excited to begin with Grand Casino Arena as our naming rights partner. They'll actually officially take that status on September 3rd. We have some work to do over the summer to get all of the signage replaced in the arena and all that kind of thing. So we're announcing this today, but the official transition will occur around September 3rd. The first event that the Grand Casino Arena will host is the Jason Aldean concert here on September 6th. So lots coming our way. We're excited.
So, yeah, and in all respect to XL Energy Center or XL Energy, longtime partner, but now kind of making that process. You mentioned it over a number of months, number of interested parties. What is that process like, Matt, when it comes to, and I believe as I'm seeing here, it's a 14-year naming rights partnership. So, Nordo Incorporated couldn't just jump in and just because you want to think about longevity and you want to think about that partnership and who you're coming together with and connecting with, putting that. What's that process like, Matt?
Yeah, it's an important one. A lot of different discussions with different organizations, and again, and you're right. It is a 14-year partnership, so it ends. It would come up for renewal again in 2039. So that sounds like a long ways away, but it's been a great process. We hired an organization called Oakview Group, who's well known in our industry and has done a lot of these naming rights partnerships over the past number of years. So they helped us sort of wade through that process, and they're quite adept at it. And so we have lots of conversations and lots of really good ones. Lots of folks who were interested in this opportunity. Again, we're thrilled that this came together with Grand Casino, partially because they're a Minnesota organization, right? They have a long-standing cultural history here in Minnesota and an impact on our state, and so we're excited to tell that story as part of our partnership. But again, we aligned really well from a brand standpoint, and really looking forward to marrying our two brands together and connecting with our fans and our customers going forward.
I feel dumb. I was reading the press release here, and maybe I should be shocked, maybe I shouldn't be shocked. More than 150 sporting and entertainment events annually, just in the downtown St. Paul area. Now Grand Casino gets to really be a part of and support that all of that entertainment that takes place on your side of the city.
Yeah, and I think they've been committed to St. Paul in other ways, which I know they'll talk about throughout the day today. But this is a massive commitment on their part, and I know they're really interested in growing their relationships and customers and business to business partners by putting their name on this arena in St. Paul. And you're right, 150 plus events every year. I mean, only 44 of those are Wild games, 41 regular season, 3 preseason, and then when we're in the playoffs. But more events come to our arena, a lot more come to our arena in other ways, whether it's rock concerts or state high school tournaments, whatever it might be. So the exposure for all of our partners, and Grand in particular, is considerable, and I know that was a big part of their decision as well, is to elevate their brand and profile in this way.
Now, here's the thing that goes along with this, Matt. And again, I appreciate your time, but from the 9 to noon perspective, we're based in nicknames, we're based in bits. So I'm thinking like Kirill Kaprizov, like nicknames and things. Could we call him the slot machine moving forward? Yeah. Or we're waiting until September 3rd, but maybe he's the slot machine moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stay out of the nickname game because for good reason. Just like with Xcel Energy, we always wanted to call it Xcel Energy Center. They paid a lot of money for that name, and Grand Casino is doing the same. So we're going to stick to the official name, but We'll see how the other thing plays out. I do want to, you mentioned it earlier, I do want to thank Xcel Energy. They've been remarkable partners for our entire history. And I do want to point out that we just recently announced an extension of our partnership, obviously not as the naming rights, but we have a very significant partnership going forward with Xcel. And those people are just amazing people. And we're incredibly grateful for the commitment that their commitment through all these years and their ongoing commitment into the future.
Congratulations on making this happen and connecting, consummating the deal with Grand Casino. And thank you so much, not just for the time today, but for all your work with the Minnesota Wild. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Nordo. I really appreciate spending a few minutes with you, and best of luck. Have a great 4th of July.
Thanks. You too. That's Matt Majka, CEO of the Minnesota Wild. As you heard it there from him, a 14-year naming rights partnership with the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, Grand Casino Mille Lacs, Grand Casino Hinckley, begins on September 3rd of this year. And now the arena will be named the Grand Casino Arena. So a change in the air in St. Paul for a hockey team in the midst of a very busy summer. Grand Casino Arena in St. Paul. When we return, kind of a deviation from sports, and I'll explain more around the corner. It all started with Charch moving to Utah, and he found out that the city he moved in, his neighbor told him, well, it's in the city charter that you have to own a firearm. And Charch was fish out of water. Well, what do I do? Well, my next guest has spent decades training people, specifically as it relates to owning and potentially carrying a firearm. His name's Billy. He's with the Modern Sportsman. We're going to catch up with him next. It's Nordo in for PA 9 to noon with a cash giveaway opportunity.
That's right. The fan at BigTech.com going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks to the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword bills, KFAN.com, keyword bills. Mall of America's mystery cards are back, and we are bringing them to you all summer long. Come grab yours at KFAN events throughout the summer or wherever you find the KFAN street team. Then make sure to redeem them at Mall of America for fun prizes and big discounts. Full list of events, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Second hour is continuing. A deviation from sports for a segment. Really pumped to do this. Summertime vibes, sunshine, Brett Blakemore producing, but special guest in studio. He is the director of training and operations for the Modern Sportsman. Not just down in Burnsville, but also cool, fresh spot up in Coon Rapids, right off Highway 47. I'm sure you've heard me mention that before, but Billy Luetkahans in studio. Welcome. How are you doing? If you can just hit that second button from you. There we go. Ready to party? How are you doing, man? Good to meet you.
Doing good. Good meeting you too, sir. Thank
so
you.
Your background, you've been with the Modern Sportsman really almost since its very genesis down in Burnsville. That's nearly a decade now, 8-9 years. And then, but prior to that, and when you sent me your intel and I got to know a little bit more about you prior to this, I do want to talk about gun safety. I want to talk about permit to carry. I want to talk about really safety being second nature and an important part that you play in that. I kind of want to hear just a couple of things about you being in the Navy for a decade as a riverine. So you can't send the battleships up the river, apparently. So sometimes you got to go with maybe a smaller force or smaller group. But you were in the Navy. You ended up becoming a riverine. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is and entails?
Yeah, it's just small boats. You see them in the movies, little green boats with the miniguns on them that go up the river fast. And kind of the main job was forward reconnaissance and interdiction of arms, drugs, anything like that, wherever we were for that mission set.
Wow. Okay. So you would be deployed like, here's XYZ problem, and they're hiding out. I got to drive. Again, when I say these things, I do not come from a position of understanding. But you might roll up the mouth of the Amazon or some stream or a river like that, and it's like, but that's got to be interesting because you don't necessarily know if we're talking like jungle environments. I mean, these guys can be jumping out of anywhere.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so I actually deployed to 2 different environments, one in the jungle in Central America and the desert. The predecessors of my team before me actually were doing security at the Haditha Dam in Iraq. So
okay.
It really kind of a modular unit that kind of fits the needs for the small waterways.
Wow. Okay. And so transitioning that time in your time of service in the Navy, combine that with your time now managing work at the Modern Sportsman. We're talking a couple of decades worth of you training individuals in terms of those that they want to own a firearm, they want to have one in the house. And then, of course, what we'll ultimately get to as well, the safety, the gravity of the responsibility of potentially carrying a firearm, what goes into the permit to carry and all of those things. So as I mentioned to you off air, this all started because a dear friend of ours at the FAN, Paul Charchian, moved to Utah, and he found out that there was something, a city ordinance, in which every resident was supposed to own a firearm. Now, he did not own one, and so now it's like, well, what the heck do I do? And I'm fascinated by the work that someone like you do, Billy, at the Modern Sportsman, from the standpoint that you're going to encounter a ton of people with this massively broad spectrum of previous experience, maybe some ill-conceived notions or bad perceptions, bad habits. Somebody told me this. I saw a video of that. I guess we'll just start here. As someone that ultimately, if somebody wants to become a gun owner, somebody potentially wants to carry a firearm, what do you think some of the biggest hurdles are that you see with inexperienced or new firearm owners? Yeah,
great question. I think a lot of it is public perception or just the anxiety of touching one. It's a big deal. You're taught it's a big deal your entire life. And just that first step through the door and asking is probably one of the biggest hurdles we encounter with any customer, be it someone who shot 10 years ago or someone who's never held a firearm. So we do our best to ease that anxiety by just talking to them. It's better. It's different than the old gun store vibe where it's, some guy who's going to look down on you or be condescending because you've never shot before. We want to teach new people. We want to spread that awareness and
good habits, right?
Responsible firearm ownership and kind of get rid of some of that stigma that it's okay. You drive a car every day, 2,000-pound missile down the highway, right? I can teach you how to safely own and store a firearm.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned it is true, and people do it again at varying ages. The first time that you handle a firearm, you feel like it's going to jump out of your hand and explode. Absolutely. So the anxiety associated with that. And then there's the other end of it too, where there can be certain environments where asking for help, it is intimidating. For a large part of people, the only time that they'll see a firearm is in the news when something bad happens, or when they watch John Wick Part 4.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the physical, tangible experience of it that can again lead to false confidence, but certainly intimidation. And I think when you have people in there, the kind of like even the basics, like the lack of understanding of how it functions. Like you guys, you would drill down to the the barest of bones on stuff like that, right? Like what's a striker fired versus a revolver? Well, some people, striker, what the heck is a striker fired thing? I know what a Glock is. What's that? You know what I mean? So like the education and breaking through that intimidation, like that's one of the A topics of your job.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, knowledge is power, right? Informing your customer or even just your student. There's a reason you learn how to do things before you actually do them in a textbook, through college or anything else you do. It's the same. So we're not going to just throw you out on the range and teach you or be like, good luck. You know, we have dedicated staff there the entire time the store is open. We'll pull you aside and we're going to sit outside of the range where it's quiet and a safe environment. And we're going to let you handle the weapon. We're going to talk about how to handle it safely. We're going to talk about the pieces of it and any question that person may have until they feel like they're ready to step inside for the first time and send rounds downrange.
Mike's cutting out here. I apologize for that. So starting at the very beginning, I like as much knowledge as possible. What can someone expect? And maybe we'll start because for me personally, if I was out there encouraging people, I would always encourage to do even a basic safety class.
Absolutely.
Even actually before purchasing a firearm. I think that would be a smart way to do it. What could someone, is it truly the ABCs? Is that, maybe I'm asking a redundant question, because I think getting through the intimidation, someone just making that move of signing up for a class. Like, I think it's so important and people will think that that's a really big deal. But once you get there, just making people comfortable in getting through the intimidating aspects of it.
Absolutely. It's crawl, walk, run, just like anything you've ever done in your life, anything you're trying to learn. And if you're uncomfortable with signing up online, just feel free to stop in. It's a safe environment. It's a clean environment. And we'll answer any question you have and take all the time. But it is, step one is, an intro to handgun class or an intro to rifle class, both of which we offer, and plenty of places offer it. I would just encourage that you go out and get the education. If you don't like it or decide it isn't for you, great. No hard feelings, but we would love to teach people that they're safe platforms, and people are the ones that make the weapon unsafe, as opposed to the weapon itself being empirically dangerous.
So a permit to carry in the state of Minnesota. Now, there are some states, and I'm not interested in going down the political road of, XYZ state is truly a permitless carry. If you're 18 years old, you can pony up to the store, get to the register, grab yourself your next favorite handgun or pistol or rifle and go about your day. But then in the states like Minnesota, you do require a permit. Correct. So what is the education process that goes into a permit to carry in the state of Minnesota?
So any permit to carry that you can take, or any class you can take, is approved by the Minnesota BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. So it's reviewed by the Department of Public Safety, and each instructor themselves is approved by the Department of Public Safety and has to be certified through a national training organization. So all of our curriculum, everything, it's a 4 to 6 hour class, depending on where you take it. You're required to shoot a live fire portion and be proficient in not just firing a weapon system, but loading, unloading, showing that you can actually comfortably handle the weapon. And at the end of all of that, then you'll get your permit to carry certificate, which you have to bring to your local sheriff's office, turn it in, and then you go through another background. And by state statute, they have 30 days to respond to you by the mail, and you'll get your permit to carry in the mail.
So there are really background checks at every turn, I believe. If I'm to buy a handgun, there's a background check, like 4473, I think is what the form is. If I want a permit to carry, there's a background check. Correct. And I think even the state has implemented red flag laws recently. Is that accurate too?
Yeah, EROs.
Okay. But so the background, so that I haven't either been in jail, cited for any mental related bits in the court system.
Yep, domestic violence.
Domestic violence is a big one.
Felony level domestic violence. Any of those will make it where you're no longer what we call a prohibited possessor. So here's one thing though. Now the evolution of it is, and these permits are good for 5 years. Correct. Okay. And then you renew it, take another class, more background checks, and you move on with that. So with
with actual the weapons themselves, the reason I went down the road of taking a safety class before you even purchase a weapon is because I remember one of the first pistols I ever bought. And you know what? It looked cool in the store, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
Felt good in the hand, Billy.
I bet.
And I took that thing out to the range, and I absolutely hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And it became a $700 paperweight that I never actually really trained with. I actually resented it. It took up space in the safe. And it was one of the worst decisions that I had ever made from a money perspective, at least at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't take the training, I didn't get out on the range, I didn't try it. Are there common mistakes? And again, I'm not into the idea of judging people, Billy, because people are coming into it with a lack of information. But are there common, again, the hoops that you have to jump through to make sure that you feel confident people walk out of there safe, walk out of there informed? Are there other common mistakes you think that new gun owners might make?
Sometimes rushing into it, or maybe a preconceived notion, or, they read a lot of online things where people are downing on a certain brand or anything like that, and they're unwilling to try it. But it's pretty common in Minnesota now that you have ranges with rental firearms. So you go to the range counter, like at both of our locations, we have well over 50 rental options.
Yeah, you guys got a bunch of them.
And you can be like, I'm here to find a gun to carry. I want it to be in 9mm. I want it to be in 380. And then the guys behind the counter are going to put different platforms in your hand with different feel, be it frame, style, like you said earlier, striker fire, hammer fire, whatever it is. And we're going to narrow down what you like and then help you make the informed decision for the platform that you're going to trust your life to and your family's life to.
Yeah. And you nail it there. Again, people buy firearms for myriad reasons, but some very common ones include personal defense of your family, defense of your property, all of those things. Billy Luetkahans, he's the training and operations manager at The Modern Sportsman. I got some more dumb questions for you here, Billy, so buckle up. From a carrying perspective, what do you think? There's a mindset to that I think that you're involved in, and I'll just tell you when I first got mine, I felt like for 4 hours that this guy was telling me not to carry.
Yep.
It almost felt a little bit about that. The idea that this is the gravest of responsibilities. The tool that it is a dangerous one.
Correct.
And creating kind of there's a mindset of humility associated with that, combined with the responsibility. Is that kind of how you would handle it or frame it up? Correct.
Yeah. So that writing the curriculum for the class, that's what I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be a flippant decision on the person's part to carry a firearm. There is a tremendous responsibility with carrying a loaded weapon in public.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous responsibility. We trust professionals to do it all over the world. We trust our military, we trust our law enforcement to do it. So why would we not take it as seriously and teach it that way? And when it comes with that, when you level that level of the weight of it, people end up listening. They want to learn more, and it isn't taught as kind of a hurdle. It's more of a learning experience then.
Yeah. No, and I saw this stat. You can tell me if I'm wrong. So I think there might be, let's just call it somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 permit carriers in the state of Minnesota. You can tell me, if that's
it could be right around there. I think the last time I saw an official one, and it trails, was like 380,000. So You're probably right around there now in 2025.
Well, let's use that number. Out of 380, I would bet less than half actually carry. Would you agree with that, or tell me that?
I would argue probably less than that carry daily.
And you know what? It's because of you guys scaring people out of doing it.
Yeah.
No, but and I say that in jest, but the reason I think, first of all, that's interesting, because ultimately what it tells me is your training is effective. Because I think a lot of people go into it saying that this is what I'm going to do. But then there becomes a self-awareness aspect of it, is this is actually not something that I feel comfortable doing, and they make that decision, which we want people to be able to make their own decisions. But the other end of it's purely from a training standpoint. Whether someone carries or not, that is an educated and informed firearm owner.
Correct.
That in the end ultimately is going to be safer around their own weapons and potentially safer in another environment in which weapons may exist.
Absolutely. It's one of the things we say in our class kind of early on is going to be, not only do you need to hold yourself accountable, but you're going to need to hold your peers, your friends, your family accountable, because I guarantee you everybody who's owned a firearm or been near people who've owned firearms have seen people do silly things with them.
Yeah.
And they kind of just look the other way. And the moment we stop allowing that in that culture, and the gun ownership culture and the permit to carry culture, we become a safer culture. It's simple as that. As we
100%.
hold ourselves accountable, be a professional while carrying. Being a professional doesn't mean wearing a suit and carrying a gun, looking like John Wick, like you said earlier, right? But being a professional.
I don't look good in a suit, Billy.
Yeah, me neither. You're good. But it's carrying in a professional holster, safe holster, the proper way, getting the training to carry properly, carrying the correct ammunition. So those are what we mean by be a professional when you carry.
Be a professional. Yeah, ultimately safety has to be second nature. That's kind of always how I've
Yes,
looked
sir.
at it. And that only happens with reps. One thing that somebody taught me a long time ago that you probably have talked about and experienced in your own life certainly is that shooting's a perishable skill. I think
100%.
that would be a phrase or a term that is popular. And so, in the end, if you are going to carry, part of being a professional is knowing that thing.
Correct.
Being inside and out, and that means membership at a range. That means regular. Even if you go in, hey, once a week, I'm just going to put 20 rounds down on a lunch break, and I'm just going to head back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
And so, knowing it, feeling comfortable with it, never complacent, never lazy or lax with it, like you said, but the comfort level that you have with it ultimately kind of builds to that professional mindset you're talking about.
We use the word confidence for that.
Confidence, I like that.
Right. So if you're safe, you learn how to be safe with a weapon, you're going to learn to be confident with it. And
That's a better
confidence
word.
allows you to train, which allows you to become proficient.
I dig that. A couple more for you here, Billy. The idea, so concealing versus open carry.
Okay.
And it's always been interesting to me, and maybe this question comes up. I'd love to know if I was in your class, how you might answer it or address it, because there's a social element to this.
Yes.
If you think about it, and people listening, people out there, it may be unintentional, but I know you do it, is if you see a police on the corner, first thing you might look at is his face, and the second thing you look at is where's the gun.
Yep.
And it's you gravitate toward it. It's like a freaking magnet. Similarly, if I'm in line to grab a sub sandwich and I see somebody with an outside the waistband holster, he's got his tucked in button up, the butt of the 6-shooter hanging out.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's wearing a 10-gallon, I think I'm in the wrong part of a different part of the country potentially. But here in Minnesota specifically, I don't see it often, but I see it once in a while. Yep. How would you address that conversation with people? Because you have to think about, again, protection. You have to think about the professional mindset, but there's a social element that you include with other people when you do open carry versus concealed.
Correct. Yeah. So once you have in Minnesota, our permit to carry is a little different than other states, because most other states, people will say it's a concealed carry permit, and we do not have that in Minnesota. It's a permit to carry a pistol. Inside of that literature in the statute, it doesn't specify whether it is to be open or concealed carried. So you are allowed to open carry in the state of Minnesota once you have a permit to carry. Right. We teach that, you are legally allowed to do so and constitutionally protected to do so. However, you are going to be, you're going to need to be open to potentially complicating your trip to get ice cream or the grocery store, because socially in Minnesota, seeing guns in public is not a common thing.
No, it is not.
Earlier, it's in the southern states, perhaps you might be used to it, but here, so we always recommend a concealed carry. The best gun is the one that no one knows is there. Yeah. It still gives you the ability to draw or undraw, but like you said, once you see someone with a firearm that you don't know, it changes the mood in the room.
Well, and potentially, I mean, I hate the hypotheticals that exist, although there are many of them. If someone was interested in doing a bad thing, the person that is the obvious
unfortunately,
potential roadblock you've
become the tallest nail standing up, and it's pretty easy to say that you might be the person who's going to stand in that person's way.
So in the state of Minnesota, actually throughout the country, you will have businesses, you will have public places that say this area bans weapons, or in particular, specifically firearms.
Correct.
Now, different states handle that differently.
Correct.
I believe many of them, or if not most of them, are like Minnesota. But if someone has that sign, well, first of all, the criminal's always going to ignore that. That's the first thing. But
if criminals followed laws, right, we'd be good.
Yeah. Can you guys just, get a law book and just kind of, stop jaywalking and maybe doing a couple other things so that the rest of us can be a little bit better off. But I believe that sign is more fashion than function.
It's correct. Yep. So on private property, to be very clear, private property owned by private entities, if they ban firearms on that, that's simply saying that if they know you have a firearm or are carrying, you're going to be asked to leave that property and refuse service.
Okay.
The crime is not carrying a firearm onto said property. It's the refusal to leave the property after you've been asked, which is trespassing.
Okay. So effectively trespassing is ultimately what it would be, but that's only if you are refusing to leave.
Correct.
The crime technically hasn't been committed.
Yep.
I didn't see the sign. I just came in here for a burger. Come on.
The sign it's almost as similar as a no shirt, no shoes, no service sign in a gas station. It's simply saying we don't want this here.
Right.
And if you do that, you're going to be asked to leave. It's pretty easy.
What are specific areas where, I've seen it before. I think there was a member of the state house that he had his permit to carry and would carry actually to session at the Capitol. And there are certain areas where I believe even he would not be allowed to specifically.
Correct.
Can you refresh my memory in terms of specific areas where people actually cannot, where carrying a weapon would indeed be a crime?
Absolutely. They're pretty easy to spot, as there's people with firearms and metal detectors normally saying you can't carry weapons past it.
Okay.
So past TSA, courthouses.
I was wondering why that TSA guy was giving me so much guff.
He was upset about the whole thing.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, federal property, federal building, military bases you can't carry into, daycare centers, schools.
Yeah.
All the things that you're fairly aware of that you shouldn't be. Really, the one that people aren't aware of is state hospitals or mental institutions. Anywhere you can be set inpatient and stay there, you can't have a firearm either.
Oh, okay. Now, I guess just kind of, and this is really surface level. What I should do and what other people should do should actually just take your class so they can get the full boat. But this popped in my head too. Just in terms of Minnesota, because we're traveling. Maybe I get the family truckster rolling and I want to go to South Dakota. I want to go to Iowa. I want to go to Illinois. Maybe I won't go to Illinois.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where different laws, and it's important. This is part of that professional mindset, part of the responsibility. You need to know where you're going and what the laws of the land in particular are. Are there any unique, or maybe are there any laws specific to Minnesota that actually you don't generally see in many, if not most, other states as it pertains to a permit to carry?
No, ours is fairly straightforward, thankfully. A lot of the states near us have gone to constitutional carry, where you don't require anything. You just must be over 21 years old. I would say Minnesota has been unique in the fact that we just allow, the state Supreme Court just upheld that 18-year-olds are allowed to obtain permit to carries now.
Okay.
So it's been 21 for, I believe, since its inception. So now 18 and up are allowed to take a class and get a permit to carry. So we're kind of unique.
Well, if I'm 18, I can go be a Riverine.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Maybe I can jump through all the various hoops and such.
And we've seen a fair amount of 18-year-olds come in, and they've treated it exactly the way we would expect them to, and responsibly and safely.
What if I'm from Iowa and I want to come to Minnesota? So, because I'm always interested, again, people moving around and things like that. It's, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to live. And if I can fit this, awful couch I got from some discount center in the back of my Jeep, maybe secondary on my mind, I don't think about it right away, is like, hey, once I get to this spot, what's up with the gun situation?
Yeah.
So if I'm how does Minnesota handle people that aren't from Minnesota in terms of, I mean, ownership should be fine if it's legal ownership.
Correct.
But from a permit to carry, they would have to do the class and get everything going here in Minnesota specifically, right?
Correct. So if you're an out-of-state resident, one of the common things we actually see are snowbirds. People who live in Florida most of the time and come up here in the summer. So their primary residence is now in Florida. They still come up here when they're here, take a permit to carry class, and they just get an out-of-state permit to carry. So they just have an out-of-state one.
Do you see, you mentioned, and maybe that answers the question, younger people. You mentioned you're seeing 18-year-olds, the Supreme Court ruling here in the state having something to do with that, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
But in trends are, I'm 40. So is it people my age? Are you seeing older, younger people that are jumping into the permit to carry class and maybe taking on that responsibility?
I would say that probably the more surprising demographic, and we love to see it and enjoy it, are women. Right. And not women attached to their husband being dragged to the range along to do the training, but women themselves
that
wanting to be
motivated and passionate,
want to be empowered and want to be confident in their ability to defend themselves.
What? Let me ask you this. That made me think of something else. What do you guys do in particular? Let's say, I am a female and I go to Modern Sportsman. You want to talk about the intimidation angle? Yeah. If I'm taking a firearm safety class, if I'm taking a permit to carry class, and you may be seeing more women, but I bet demographically it's still pretty shaded to one side.
Yep, pretty heavy.
How do we create an environment where women can feel comfortable, they can feel emboldened and empowered, and maybe I stop saying comfortable, but confident. We're going to say confident moving forward. Confident in the training, confident potentially, being on the range, right? A busy range day, it can get chaotic and hectic, right?
Absolutely.
How do we make women more confident as they pursue this?
Well, as not being a woman, right, I can take stabs at it. We have programs that we've done. There's programs all across the state, well-armed women. There are groups of women who get together and do this training with the lead instructor being a female. Yeah. We have women-only classes here at the Modern Sportsman, taught by one of our outstanding instructors. His name's Alex, good guy. He teaches women-only classes where we only allow women to be in the range so they can feel a little bit less intimidated or more confident and comfortable to handle that weapon system in a more women-friendly environment.
No, that's terrific, man. Thank you for doing this today.
Of course.
This was an absolute blast. And just, again, I joke about the pretense of Paul Charchian's navigating his new residence in Utah, but I love getting this out there. There's stigma of guns and all of that. There's a political element to it. I'm very well aware of all of that. But trying to break down that wall and inform people, and again, it's a choice and all of that. But to be able to inform people to be safe, but to be in maybe personally responsible, and the ability to defend their family and their property. Like, I want people to take that opportunity, and I don't want bad perception to stand in the way of that, you know?
Absolutely. And like you said, steering away from the political side of it, right? The store and our policy is we're apolitical. If you are an American citizen or a permanent resident and you are authorized to possess a handgun or any sort of firearm, we will teach you. We will help you. I don't care where you come from. I don't care race, religion, creed. I want to make you a safe gun owner.
Oh, that's terrific, man. You're great at what you do.
Thank you.
This was absolutely my pleasure having you on this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Billy Luetkahans. He is the training and operations manager at the Modern Sportsman. Safety, second nature, responsible firearm ownership and operation. And they have the ability to teach you maybe not only safe operation and everything, but permit to carry classes, rifle training. They have all sorts of things. Go to themodernsportsman.com. We'll be back with some news next.
Fan.
It's going to be sunny all day today, you said?
That's what I'm looking at. Maybe partly cloudy.
No, that's
for
sweet.
A little bit. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah, it's cool. Life in Nordo. Got to mow the lawn. Can't wait to do that. You know what I can't wait for, I should say, in reality, though? I actually can't wait to mow the lawn because it's too much rain lately. Anyway, no one cares about that. What they do care is about the casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Feeling the felt, poker, blackjack, table games. all year round. You got pick 4s and pick 5s galore. Lowest takeout in the land from a horse racing perspective. Check out live racing and check out the schedule. Check out everything. CanterburyPark.com. Where are we headed to first, Brett?
Number 1.
A local Chaska man has to mow his lawn later today. More coming up on. Is it a riding one at least?
Okay. No, it's a smaller.
Pusher?
I live in suburbia. Okay. I do not have a large yard. I do not have a riding mower. I will get out there. I will sweat for about. I think I do it in 38 minutes now.
Okay. Do you at least have where it's self-propelled?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Didn't want to know if you're living like a caveman.
We're built on a hill. We a little extra juice going up the hill works. we need it. Absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Number 1.
Yeah, the Twins are playing baseball tomorrow, day off today. They're flying down to Little Havana to take on the Marlins for a 3-game set. They just come off of a 2 out of 3 L's in Detroit, losing yesterday 3-0 shutout. So tomorrow, it looks like it'll be Joe Ryan on the mound. He's really good, 8-3. But your Twins are still 4 games under 500 at 40-44.
Yeah, chance to and kind of turning the corner. I've heard a lot of people mentioning like, hey, doesn't necessarily get easier. The Marlins have won like 7 or 8 in a row. I'm scrambling to look at it now as I find it. Yeah, they're 8 games under. They just lost one. But they had been winning. Let me see here. Why is it jumping? No, they won 7 straight. Excuse me. So the grind continues. Is it okay, despite your favorite team losing, is it okay to acknowledge that watching Skubal yesterday was kind of awesome? That watching this cat work and watching him mow down Twins batters, Tariq Skubal, the way, the dominant nature of his pitching cannot be denied. He's absolutely unfreaking believable. Might be the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. And I know we lost 3-0 yesterday. I know we felt feeble, futile, helpless. Nothing we could do to beat him. But my goodness, is he good. So it's negative. You lose 2 of 3. It was nice you won the opener on Friday night. I felt like a sweep was potentially in the mix for this baseball team. You get 1 out of 3. That part's awful. But my takeaway from yesterday was nothing like, we got to figure out these Marlins around the corner, winning ways, all of this. We'll beat the Marlins. We'll take the series against the Marlins in Florida. I believe that. But I just at a base level, like I want that. I want Skubal. I want something like that. We're going to have Lavelle in tomorrow, but PA and I talked about this last week, where in the hope selling business, you think about what's next, what's around the corner, right? So the Wolves can sell hope with the 20-year-old, the 18-year-old, the Aussie, the Frenchman, the Twin Towers that were selected in the NBA draft by Tim Connolly and the Howl. So they can sell you some hope on what that front court looks like in the future. What can the baseball... Is there an arm in the system right now that potentially could be that? And that's really just what I take away from yesterday's game. Appreciating Skubal, how freaking good he is, and what our team needs to do to get that. And is that from a development standpoint? This is a team that found its way, whether it was, Frankie Liriano before the arm, about Johan. You think about that, like just an absolute stone cold ace. And I know it's hard. I'm asking of something very difficult of my favorite baseball team. I know that. But that's what I took away from the game is they have that. And that is so good. We had no answer for it. The league doesn't have an answer for it. Tariq Skubal is awesome. And I'm sure in 2 years he'll be a member of the Dodgers. We'll see. What else you got?
Number 2.
We've got the trade terms for the Jalen Ramsey trade. So the Dolphins have agreed to trade Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 7th-round pick. Can't wait to see who that is. To the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for safety Minka Fitzpatrick and a 2027 5th-round pick.
All right, well, that kind of changes things now. Yep. As I was listing off this fantasy football defense that they've assembled, that included Minka Fitzpatrick until now you say he is gone. They have a couple of guys in the mix here. They picked up Juan Thornhill, I think, from Cleveland. It's not high-end consummate all-pro talent, but Miles Killebrew, if you remember him, he's with the Steelers now, used to be with the Detroit Lions. So maybe their safety spot looks a little bit different. Still got much better. Jonnu's interesting. Jonnu may be a little bit better from an athleticism standpoint at the tight end spot than Freiermuth, although Freiermuth has been just absolutely steady Eddie during his time in Pittsburgh. So, wow, okay. So that doesn't cost as much as I necessarily thought it would. He still gets a raise. He gets paid. Man, that's a nice situation for the Steelers. That's a nice situation with that defense. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers, if this is truly going to be it, this is a pretty good chance for Mr. Rodgers. You got one more?
I got one more.
Number 3.
Yesterday at U.S. Bank Stadium, the U.S. men's national team beat Costa Rica in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup 3-2. The final.
You were there.
I was there. At penalties.
And Robbie's good?
Robbie's good. He's calmed down now. The goalkeeper, Matt Freese, who...
He whispers at 160 decibels.
that is correct.
You need ear protection.
It wasn't as loud as it typically is at a Vikings game, but Robbie thankfully made up for that when they conceded the second goal.
Don't ask him about the wave, though.
No, God, no. 3 saves in the penalty shootout, which is unheard of. He went on to say that he was studying penalties basically on the plane to Minnesota.
No.
He got the tip on one of the saves to not move, that one of the Costa Rican players would fire down the middle. It's basically a guessing game, the penalty shootouts. But again, hey, a win is a win is a win in dramatic fashion in Minnesota.
They were bad penalties.
They're horrible.
He can watch all the videos that he wants. It is indeed a guessing game. He stopped 3, which I appreciate, but they were bad penalties being taken too. They were not terrific at all. Speaking of bad penalties, you were talking about it. You were at the game. I didn't watch until things started to get greasy towards the end, so I did not see the 12th minute.
Yeah, that
we took. The Americans took somebody down. Just an awful. I mean, what are we just talking about? Just a blind stab at a guy's leg in the box?
You know, like in hockey when the guy gets beat, so he last ditch tries to hook him. You know, kind of that similar thing, except for the defenseman just kicked right in the calf of the Costa Rican player, right in the box, plain as ever. Yeah, it was a stone cold penalty.
How long did he roll around? Did they get the stretcher?
Well, it had to go to VAR.
Okay,
so
that gave him time.
Yeah, it gave him time to roll around and
triage.
And
did they have the spray?
Well, you got to have the spray.
You got to have the spray.
Magic spray.
I still don't know what the spray does.
I'm never convinced it's nothing.
It's a simple internet search that I've just never done. I think I don't want to lose the aura of the magical spray. Yeah. But there was no stretcher.
There was not.
No ambulance on the field or anything like that.
It should be stressed that the U.S. can field a team of all, and I say European players that play for big clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
You can field an entire 11 with that for USA. I think we had 3 out there yesterday. So this is a B-, C+ team, and they still got the job done. So I can't be mad.
Hey, stand and applaud, ladies and gentlemen. The Americans are moving forward in the Gold Cup. Next up, Guatemala?
I believe so, yes.
Guatemala? Mm-hmm. Okay, sweet. Semifinal?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay. Well, we will... Oh, you're out tomorrow. Darn it. I wanted to do a full hour of soccer conversation, but you are out tomorrow.
Dang it.
So we can't.
Ugh.
Maybe next time. Remind me.
Yeah, I'll remind you. Sure, it'll go well.
That's News to Nord, courtesy of the casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Brett Blakemore running the whole thing. When we return, Ryan Burns, Gopher Illustrated. We are nearing camp and ultimately games that count for Golden Gopher football. The recruiting genius of PJ, how the Big Ten looks. Got some new money in pockets of programs to pay players. All kinds of things to bandy about with Mr. Burns at Ryan Burns MN via X. That's around the corner. Final hour, 9 to noon.